As we were discussing the targets of environmental laws, we have discussed the industrial facilities, which are the major source of pollution and contamination, including the emissions as well. So, we have another target, that is government agencies, particularly related with the new projects. It is very important to implement laws which will be regulating different environmental factors. So that is the reason we have EIA, environmental impact assessment, and we have some rules and regulations through which we have to pass through before executing any project. So EIA is one of the conditions which must be fulfilled uh, before the start of any project. So it is one of the implementations of our law. So it is again going to facilitate our environment, and so through EIA implementation, we are going to we are going to regulate our environmental factors. Then some individuals can also have an can also be a target, and as you can see, regulation of individual conduct is less popular than the regulations of facilities for both political and practical reasons. So earlier we also discussed that instead of imposing some restriction on individual level, it is much better to implement a restriction on the industry or institution that can have a better impact. And the law enforcement on individuals is not so fruitful or productive. Then we have some land uses, particularly the use of land is related with environment. As we talked earlier, agricultural purpose use, and industrial purpose use, and domestic purpose use, and social purpose use, all these purposes must be predefined based on the characteristics of that land. And especially we are also concerned with the available resources, whether that is some wildlife, or whether it is some cultivation, or it is some water resource, or some groundwater resource. We are also concerned with the utilization of those resources in that case. So based on that, the land use is again under the imposition of the environmental law. So we can also we have laws to regulate the land usage. And some groundwater explorations are also controlled in this way. Tube well installations have some rules, particularly for agriculture purpose, that within the range of this much area, how many tube wells are allowed, because it is going to affect our groundwater resource. So groundwater depletion must be minimized, and we must have some mechanism to look into the extraction of water from the groundwater resource. Now, regulatory objectives. What is the desirable level of protection? So based on the usage, uh, based on the association, actually we have also some categories like health or environmental based standards. For example, national environmental quality standards must protect human health. So as we have defined the limitations, we have defined the standards like national environmental quality standards. The basic purpose of that is to uh, look to observe how much effect of the contaminant is on our environment, which will be directly linked with the health issues. Similarly, we have another parameter, that is technology or feasibility based standards. So we are concerned that if we have more uh, uh, detection level of any contaminant, then we need to have a better technology for the uh, control of that pollutant. So in this case, technology based standards are also defined, that what is the technology available with us to control that pollution. Then we have some balancing standards, that is the Toxic Substance Control Act requires the EPA to balance the environmental and health effects of chemicals with economic and consequences of regulations. So for example, our industry has some limitations of using a particular chemical. So if that is unavoidable, we have to understand that there is no other option, so we must have the standards of for that pollutant in a more relaxed form. Now we have some regulatory obligations. How will regulations achieve their objectives? How we can do it? How the regulations can be achieved? This is based on the following steps, which include design standards, performance standards, ambient standards. Ambient means the actually actual conditions prevailing in that environment. And product bans or use limitations, planning or analysis requirements, information disclosure requirements. So all these are the things which we are going to use for the achievement of our objectives to regulate. So first of all is the design standards or technology specification. These specify how a certain plant, machinery or pollution control apparatus should be designed to achieve the standard, to achieve a regulation. So what is the regulation? It is the standard which we have developed. For example, national environmental quality standards as defined. We How we can achieve that standard? We must have such design of that equipment or plant or machinery or whatever we are going to use, that should have the capability to reduce the contamination level to up to the required levels. So this is one of the approaches which we can use to reduce to achieve the regulation. Then we have performance standard or emission limits. So this is something about the working of that plant or unit. So how we can improve by maintenance or by proper monitoring, and how we can improve the state of that equipment so that we can get better performance of that machine performance work and its working. Then we have product bans or use limitations. So in some cases we have to ban a product to achieve some target. And then we have a planning or analysis requirements. This is in especially in the case we have implementation of EIAs, and sometimes we have ISO 14000 certification implementations, which we normally do to achieve these standards. So information disclosure requirement is also one of the areas in which rules and regulations must be implemented. So specifically the information about any kind of contaminant being disposed into the drains must be provided to the stakeholders, must be provided. For example, an industry is disposing a waste, so the information about the concentration of that waste must be shared with the community and must be shared with the law enforcing agencies. So this is the method how we can implement our rules and regulations. So again, purpose of environmental law is the collection of environmental law is the collection of laws, regulations, agreements, common laws that govern how humans interact with their environment. And the purpose of environmental law is to protect the environment and create rules for how people can use the natural resources. Well, so here, what do environmental laws regulate? Environmental laws cover a wide range of topics which are described here. I think it is quite self-explanatory. Air quality, water quality, waste management, contaminant cleanup, so chemical safety, hunting and fishing. All these are the areas where we must implement our environmental laws, and we must have some rules and regulations to streamline and to regulate our these medium and these media and their quality as well. So this is the significance of our environmental laws. These are the major areas which require the implementation. So why is environmental law important? So as we can say, environmental law plays a huge part in protecting humans, animals, resources, habitats, and without these laws there would be no regulations concerning pollution, so contamination and hunting, or even response to disaster. Environmental laws work to protect land, air, water, and soil, and the negligence of these laws result in various punishments in the form of different options which we can hear. So now we will be talking about the principal functions and of environmental law.